Hello and welcome to CJC Adventures, and welcome to part 2 of Tipton Past and Present. And we're going to take a look around some of the other places that Tipton has to offer and what it once looked like and what it looks like now. We're going to start with Prince's End, so let's go. Now overall Prince's End hasn't changed an awful lot. You can just see the 2:45 bus. I think that used to go to Dudley and Wolverhampton. It was quite late at times. You can just see the Georgian Dragon pub there. You know, the traffic is pretty much the same today. It looks busy there. It's busy today by all standards of roads, probably even busier than it was then. So let's go and take a look at what it looks like now. Not really much different. You know, it's probably a little bit more modern in places. And if you look where it says Ladbrokes, there's where it says Bun and Bits. Geoffrey Hughes, who played Eddie Yates in Coronation Street, and he also played as Vernon Scripps in Heartbeat and many other programmes, actually opened that. I think it was that shop there, or could be Ladbrokes, could be Bun and Bits, but he did open that when it was a bank, and he came in a bin lorry because he was a bin man, wasn't he, in Coronation Street. Now, one of Tipton's oldest pubs at the time was the Georgian Dragon, which stood on the corner of High Street in Prince's End. I never really went in there much myself. I went in there about once or twice. It was a bit run down in the end, and it caught fire, and it was a Georgian building, as the name states, but it was okay in there, but it sort of was past its sell-by date. There was a shop next to it. It was called Trevor and Sue's there on the left. It was always a good pint in there, by all accounts, so, but sadly, this is what it looks like now. By today's standards, it's completely different. Completely new buildings. It is a shame that it's not still a pub there. We got Greg's and a few local shops. But that was the Georgian Dragon. Now another pub, and I quote, a great pub, in which I was a local for along with my family and friends, was the Lagoon, which stood directly over the road from the Georgian Dragon. Now you will hear lots of stories about the Lagoon. It was a rough pub and it wasn't safe to go in. Don't believe it. The legend of the pub still lives on. People will still say who went in there, it wasn't what people said it was. A lot of people said police were called. There wasn't. In my time, I went in every weekend. Police was never there. I never saw one single police car anywhere near the Lagoon. It was a warm welcome. You could make friends. There was entertainment. There was a big back room. There was a bar. The beer was good. The welcome was good, and the people were great. And it's just a legendary pub, which is sadly no longer there. A terrific pub and sadly missed. And here is sadly what looks like where it used to be now. Let's take a look. This is sadly what it looks like today. It looks nothing like it did. This is where the Lagoon stood. Awful, awful sight to see. I'm sorry if you live here, but the Lagoon looked a lot better here than anything else, definitely. Sadly missed. Now this is Prince's End signal box. Now a railway did run round the outskirts of Prince's End at one point. Now this could be anywhere, couldn't it? It could be literally somewhere in the country, it could be Yorkshire, it could be anywhere. But it's not, it's in Prince's End in Tipton, and you'll probably, if you don't know what's there now, you might have a shock. It looks nothing like it did. Really, really changed. Let's have a look. And it does look very, very different these days, doesn't it? Road right the way through. Signal box would be just there on the left, and the tracks would be where the path is now. Strange, isn't it, when something changes so much it's unrecognisable? But still, times change, don't they? Occasionally. Now another pub known for its lopsided appearance because of mining subsidence is the Tilted Barrel on High Street, Prince's End. It's been there some years, and we're going to go and see what it looks like today. And the Tilted Barrel is still here. Could do with a facelift. It doesn't look much different, but it probably did look better many years ago when it was in its heyday. But I did use this pub up until the early to mid 2000s, but I haven't been in here for quite some time. It is still open, but could do with a bit of a facelift, I suppose. That's the Tilted Barrel. Good memories. Now, just off Prince's Inn High Street and Bradley's Lane stood the Prince of Wales. It was a butler's pub, M&B, Mitchells and Butlers. This photograph dates back lots and lots of years, decades later, and if you look at the bottom portion of the pub, take good note. And this pub closed down in 1979, sadly. But remnants still remain. Let's take a look. What's left of the Prince of Wales? Now, for those who remember the pub itself might not realise, but the second part of the building, that is still the actual, what used to be the Prince of Wales pub. When it closed, the top portion was taken off and it was made into a scratchings factory. And today it's Eva White Windows Limited. Now, a lot of people probably don't realise, but if you see those blue gates on the right, now that was the car park. It looks a lot different, doesn't look the same building. The part on it is still remaining and still standing today, which is really nice to know that the past still remains for such an iconic skyline pub. Now this is the Tibbington Mar Hole, or as they say locally, Marlow. Now as you can see at the top of the picture, now that was a massive hole. Now that hole, if you fell in there, you wouldn't get out. That would be guaranteed, and it had to be filled in, and by today's standards and everything else, it would be health and safety. It was so dangerous, it was unbelievable. But today, this is what it looks like. All that it is really today is just a massive field. Now, councillors have come and examined this land, and they have actually said, oh, we'll build on it, and locals have said, why don't you build on it, why don't you put houses on? But believe me, if you did, you'd end up pretty much within a couple of years your house would be submerged, because even though it's firm to walk on, because of what used to be here, and there was gas in the ground, and there still is, there is one or two sort of poles that keep the gas under control to stop it from emerging or sort of blowing up really. But doubtful if that happened, but this is what it looks like today. By any time in history it hasn't changed a lot here, but really if you look at those goalposts in the middle of the screen, they've always been here. I actually used to live round here. I used to live just to the right there, but yeah, it's not changed since the hole was filled in. It's always looked like this since then, so yeah. Now this is the cracker. You probably realise why it's called the cracker, because of everything looking cracked and derelict and a mess. Well, today it's been landscaped. Let's take a look. This is it today. It has been like this for quite some time now. It's just open fields, and they did have a couple of football pitches on here at one point, but now it's just grassland and landscaped and trees. to be honest, I wouldn't come over here at night. It's okay to walk your dog over here occasionally in the day, but not recommended at night. But to be honest, I grew up around here, so you do get used to these sort of places. Now, this pub, the Black Horse, otherwise known locally as the Black Horse, I do remember going in there at least once, maybe twice, and it hasn't changed over the years. It's in Bloomfield, just down the road from Prince's End, and it was a nice pub, and a nice pint. It was an old-fashioned pub, probably the last remaining one what actually looked like that, really. But by today, let's take a look at what it looks like today and what it looks like now. And this is the building today. It doesn't look like it, but it is still the same building. It is still the same structure. It's just been covered up with facades and awnings, new windows. It's been everything from a cafe to a chip shop to a takeaway. It's a chippy and a pizza Indian takeaway now, and you can also get grocery here. It's you can still see the outline. None of the building was actually knocked down too much. It wasn't damaged too much, but it is completely unrecognisable except for the shape of the building, which, of course, like I mentioned before, times do change when new owners take over buildings. They don't always want them as a pub or whatever it was in the past. Now, the bridge that you can see there is known locally as the Piano Bridge. It's actually called the Musical Bridge, and today's standards it is still the same bridge, and we're just going to take a look at what it looks like now and how it's changed and how the traffic actually goes under it to the way it did back then. And it doesn't look much different. The actual shape of the road is still the same. The traffic is more busier. Of course, today's traffic is busier, isn't it? The bridge with the musical notes, the piano bridge or the musical bridge, whichever you want to call it. Over on the left, that building is no longer there. That's actually Bloomfield Park these days. And it's got a train going over. As you can see, the traffic is really busy here. It's not changed much, it's just been updated and out with the old, in with the new, I suppose. Now here you will find the Star Hotel. Now it's a bit rare really to actually see a hotel in Tipton or anywhere around the surrounding parts, mainly known for industry. There are one or two dotted around before you get to the town of Dudley, but the Star Hotel was mainly known for its drinkers, and it was known for proper locals, if you like, of the day. And in Bloomfield, near Prince's End, stood the Star Hotel. Let's go and take a look at what it all looks like now. Totally unrecognisable. Now, this isn't the Star Inn Hotel at all. That's long gone. Went in around about, don't quote me, sometime in the 90s. It was demolished and it was replaced by this building. I think it's like some sort of offices or a school at the moment. But yeah, this is what it looks like today. The former Star Inn Hotel. Yes, it's sad. Now this is actually the back of the Star Inn Hotel. Now this is a wall, of course. This is the only remaining remnants of what used to be the Star Inn Hotel. Now, think what you may, but somewhere along the line there's always going to be remnants somewhere, even by the standards of a building this new, what's been replaced that once legendary place. But this was part of the wall, which I believe was the car park. Fun fact. Now, one pub, I don't remember it, which was in High Street, Prince's End, was the Coach and Horses. It was well known, probably not well known as many pubs. People do still talk about it today who remember it, and what it was like in there and what the people were like. And from this old photograph you can see that it looked a very tidy built pub, very traditional. Let's go and see what it looks like now. Welcome to the Coach and Horses. No, not really. This is all that remains, which is nothing. Now, up until recently you could still see part of the outdoor toilets of the Coach and Horses, but sadly that's no longer in existence, so it's all that remains of the house with whatever's around it. Now the next pub we're going to look at is the Gospel Oak Tavern, as it was known then. These days it's known as the Gospel Oak. Now the pub itself dates back probably over 100 years, probably a bit more. Now one particular lady, she was known as Old Mother Shipton. Now the pub itself has never been known as the Gospel Oak. You'll never hear anybody say, do you want to go down the Gospel Oak for a meal or something to drink? That's not what they actually call it round these parts. It's always been known as Shippies, after Old Mother Shipton, who ran this pub for many, many years. She was apparently a very, very old sort of fashion looking landlady. She would sort of tell you what she thought, and back then many pubs were like that. Staying in Gospel Oak Road, we take a look at this old picture of Tipton Sports Academy. Now Tipton Sports Academy, they used to play cricket on there. Before that it was a waste ground for Sandwell Council, now known as Sandwell Council, but these days it's home of Tipton Town Football Club. And let's take a look at what it looks like today. This is Tipton Sports Academy. Now Tipton Town has a bit of history. They did have one particular player who started off his footballing career here, Steve Ball. He was born in Tipton. He then went on to play for West Bromwich Albion and more notably Wolverhampton Wanderers, scoring over 300 goals and playing for England. And his career started right here at Tipton Town Football Club at the Sports Academy. It was a bit different back then. It has been modernised, very nice here. They do meals here, they do Sunday dinners here, they do all sorts of drinks, bars. You have to be a member in certain areas of the building. But, you know, it's very nice. If you ever pass in, do give it a try. Now, one pub which stood on the corner of Salter Road and Upper Church Lane was the Victory Inn. Now, if you've ever saw the film Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, this is what Patrick Swayze in the story would have had trouble cleaning up, because it really was a very rough pub. Apparently every weekend there'd be a fight between locals or strangers, and you know, you could go in and have a few pints, I think. But it got to a point where they had to change the name from the Victory Inn, or locally known as the Vic, to the Brew and Baker. It then closed, it was then set on fire, and then eventually, let's take a look at what it looks like today. And this is what stands here today, the Victory, or the Vic, or if you did want to call it the Brew and Baker, you could, is no longer in existence. Quite a few years ago, the ground was used for housing. There's bungalows on here, there's cherry trees on here. A lot of people did say that the actual cellar, which was round the back, is still there. I don't really think it is. I don't think they'd leave a cellar there for health and safety reasons when they're building something. But this is where it stood, and those houses that you can see just on the corner there, the white houses, they're still the same houses, they've just been done up. They're very old buildings round these parts on the corner of Salter Road, but that was the Vic. And a notorious pub, shall we say. And that's it for today on CJC Adventures. Cole bidding you a farewell. But before I do, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Until next time, take care on CJC Adventures. All the best. Goodbye for now.